Thank you for joining us once again for the Audi Innovation Series, our second one in 2023, and now our 11th installment of this homegrown Canadian speaker series. We continue to be grateful to the iconic guests who have graced our stage over the years. Individuals that have changed the world we live in through their own creativity, innovation, and vision. At Audi, we continue to drive progress through innovation and creativity. We are proud to spotlight the people who drive the same in their own fields. Today, we are honored to welcome an acclaimed and multi-talented individual, actor, screenwriter, director, producer, and best-selling novelist, Ethan Hawke. He's been recognized numerous times for his immense contribution to the arts, including multiple nominations at the Academy Awards, Golden Globes, and a Tony Award. Today's discussion will be moderated once again by Dwight Drummond, the acclaimed award-winning journalist and host at the CBC. We are very grateful for Dwight's ongoing contribution to our Audi Innovation Series. And now, please join me in welcoming Ethan Hawke to the Audi Innovation stage.
How does it feel to be back at the Toronto International Film Festival and have the international premiere of your film Wildcat here?
It feels pretty cool. You know, the way the movie business has changed during the course of my lifetime, the truth of the matter is most all the movies that are going to play at this festival will probably never be seen by 1,000 people at one sitting ever again.
You know, like their art house films?
Yeah, a lot of them are, but it's just, even think about it. So if you're not making a Marvel movie or Lord of the Rings or something, most movies get seen at people's homes, you know, by themselves. And that's not really why you make a movie. Like when you're making a movie, you imagine it. I mean, when I'm sitting there in the editing room or even on set, I'm imagining tonight. I'm not imagining imagining people watching alone in their room. I'm imagining what's it gonna be like in a movie theater when this camera zooms in like that and we crank the music just like so. You know, that's where you're dreaming of nights like tonight. And so I'm grateful to Cameron, you know, the people who run this festival. This has been a tough 5 years. COVID, now the industry's at war with itself. Actors aren't allowed to come. We're not allowed to say certain things. It's and the funny thing about the major festivals is they're the last guard of the curating movies as an art form. Otherwise, we're always just a unit of sale. How much money to make? How much money to make? How much money to make? You know, but
that's the Marvel universe. Right?
Yeah, but that's what's happened in our culture. You know, status, accumulation of wealth are all these things that we look to as a god. And at the festival, no. It's not about that. It's about, hey, is it good? Do you have something to say? Is it new? Does it represent diversity? Does it represent truth?
Important film.
Yeah.
Right, and this seems to be an important film. Your daughter inspired you, or she was inspired by Flannery O'Connor, and she became interested in bringing Flannery's life to screen. So let's talk about this author that not a lot of us know about, that you're introducing us to, and how the story appealed to you to the point that you were inspired to direct and co-write a film about it.
Well, all right, you know, our children are mysterious entities, right? And they become themselves. They become much bigger than you could have ever imagined.
This particular one has become really big, a wonderful actress.
She is, and she's a wonderful musician. She's a wonderful thinker. When you have her at Thanksgiving dinner, there's a lot happening. And that's a responsibility as a parent.
Yes.
You know, and well, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, but like I am an actor. I come at everything I've learned about writing and directing, I've learned as an actor. That's what I do. And I have a love of actors, and I saw her develop. She started falling in love with Flannery O'Connor's writing because of her English teacher at school. And then when it came time to audition for theater schools, she made her own monologue. And she used Flannery O'Connor when she was a young woman. She's a very devout, faith-driven woman. And Maya was very inspired by these letters that she would write to God, where she confessed intense insecurity, intense lack of self-worth, a desire to be great, but smart enough to understand that, is that hubris? Why don't I have a desire to be in service? You know, and Maya really related to these problems of what's the right manifestation of ambition? And is it possible for wildly gifted people to be racked with insecurity? You know, and of course it is.
And she was.
And she was. And Maya learned a lot from this. And so she made up this monologue She did it for our family in the kitchen. And, you know, it became a character that she loved playing. And so as, you know, she got more and more successful and she had the power to like make something, she's like, I want to play Flannery O'Connor. And I'm enough of an actor to go, I'll hitch my wagon to that horse.
She came and pitched Dad?
Yeah. Yeah, she wanted to play this character. She grew up in a house that hero worshipped, you know, Gene Hackman, Denzel Washington, Al Pacino. You know, I'm a lover of acting, and one of the things that she noticed by watching all these male performers is, why are women always asked to be so nice all the time? You know, these great actors get to play really complicated, disturbed.
roles, yeah.
They can play gangsters, they can play hateful people, they can play, and you're still rooting for them. You know, she's like, why do women have to be so good all the time? She wanted to play a complex, three-dimensional human being. Yeah.
Really
and so
her own, yeah.
I was like, I want to do that too. Let's do that together.
I mean, your identity, as you said, lies with being an actor, right? That's how you came up. You're a child actor. You
Yeah,
went
I
to it
was.
so young. How has your experience as an actor influenced you as a director then that you're directing?
Well, I like to say this, that I wish that more cinema schools, you know, they'll always, if you go up to, you know, try to get your degree and try to be a director or something like that, they always teach you cinematography, they teach you costume, they teach you set design, they teach you playwriting and screenwriting, but they never teach acting. And if you look at the history of cinema, the great directors, if you picked 100 great, you know, wow, Spike Lee is an actor,
Yes.
Woody Allen is an actor, Charlie Chaplin, Orson Welles, you know, like
Yeah, you're
there's
right.
there's so many great actors that have gone on to direct that they're similar art forms. And so I try, as a director, I think my main motivation is to create a set, an atmosphere that is really conducive to good acting. People think, oh, acting is learning your lines or this kind of preparation or that kind of, but a lot of it is deeply informed by what is the energy like on set. And when there's...
And you get to make your set as a director because you pick who you get to work
but
with.
when you're an actor, you don't.
That's right.
There's
yeah.
all these people, and this cameraman's a jerk, and this guy tells you to move your head over there. You're like, wait a second, you know, I can't, I'm a character. I'm not here to pose for you. But if the set is built in such a way, you get forced to doing work you don't want to do. And so I like directing just to create space for actors to thrive.
You know, I interviewed Sarah Pauli and she said the same thing.
She did?
Yeah, you guys are
I
very
like
good
her.
at that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the films that have influenced you or been instrumental in your career. I mean, we know your famous films. What kind of films influenced you?
Well, I've had the great thing about starting at something young, there's advantages and disadvantages to anything,
Yes.
right? If you look at it the right way. But one of the big advantages of child acting is I had a lot of mentors who were professional craftsmen, you know, and so like my first movie, I was 13 years old, directed by this guy, Joe Dante, who came up from genre films. So he made horror movies. He made Piranha and The Howling and Gremlins, and he loved genre films. He would talk about genre films the way your high school English teacher talked about Tolstoy or something. I mean, it was important.
Yeah.
This movie's scary, and let me tell you why it's so good. You know, and so that was one mentor. Then I would have Peter Weir, who directed Dead Poets Society, and he was the kind of person that would talk to you, would take you to a museum and show you what great painters were like. He would make you listen to like.
While you're working on the film together,
Yeah.
so, let's go to the
Why is
museum.
Duke Ellington great? Why is it better than that? Why?
Listen.
Like, well, you know, tell me the difference between John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison. Tell me the difference. What's the difference? You know, and like, he'd get you thinking about art in an original way. And then I had this amazing experience around my 30th birthday of getting to work with Denzel.
Yes.
And Denzel, once you're in a room with that level of excellence, you don't unsee it. You know, when you up close see somebody excel, I imagine it's what it's like if you're playing sports with someone, because you see them practice. You see the way they train their body.
preparation, the
You see
work,
what they
yeah.
eat for lunch. You know, you see how they get to work each day. You see who the people they surround themselves with. You know, and you start to see that the details that go on to that kind of continued excellence.
Do you credit some of those people for your longevity then? Because not a lot of child actors make it into adulthood.
Well, that's the
in this
negative
business,
of
right?
childhood acting.
Yeah,
you know,
so-
it fans the flames of ego
That early?
in a way
You
that
start 18 in this
yeah,
big movie?
and you got nowhere to go but down.
Wow.
You know, and that can be extremely difficult, and kind of can throw off the trajectory of the student mentality, which
The learning and
the learning and getting
progression,
better and better and better.
Yeah.
So I had to seek out people that I admired and pay attention to them.
That's excellent. In your 2020 TED Talk, you mentioned how being creative is more than just brainstorming. It's a way to connect with one another and with human beings. How important is human creativity? Why does it matter?
Well, that to me is one of the essential questions of my, everybody spends their life thinking about something, right?
Yes.
I mean, some people.
And you talk a lot about creativity.
Yeah, and so this is my thing, and I think it's because I don't know anything else.
You're
I don't.
creative, yeah.
That's, and I think it's essentially what the film Wildcat is about. I heard this quote once where Joan of Arc was on trial, and one of the, the judges, inquisitors, whatever they call those kind of people, said, that you seem to be a victim of your imagination. And she said, how else would God talk to me? And I remember when I read that,
I've never heard that.
I hadn't either, and I thought about that, and I thought it's very interesting that the whole act of faith is kind of an act of imagination, and that you could say that as a negative, but what if it wasn't? If, thought leads action, everything from this table to this chair, everything that is in our reality was thought of first, right? It had to, they had to think
Somebody
of what
came
Audi
up
was before they made
yes.
these symbols and
Yes.
stuff, right? You know, so it was born in here, so it is real. And so if imagination and faith is real, then human creativity is kind of our way of joining the act of creation, which is what, I remember when, I don't know whether it was which reverend it was at the church I was going to as a kid, saying that, the world wasn't really created, it's creating. We are in creation right now, and that human creativity I've come to view as nature manifest in us, right? It's like Shakespeare is like the Aurora Borealis, or Miles Davis is the Grand Canyon at sundown.
Yes.
It's something undeniable, and it's in us, and it's coming through us, and so it's not just it's not an entertainment, it's not a union of sale, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. When it's at its best, it does bring people together. I mean, I don't know, I went to, when I was a kid once, we went to Haiti, and there was this incredibly poor district, city of Soleil in Port-au-Prince, and on this wall was this mural of Bob Marley.
And you see those all over the Caribbean. People do these massive.
And you see the message that this man sent, and this message of inclusivity, and it's like an arrow. It's like that
one love philosophy.
It penetrates hard hearts, and it gets you through bad days, and it doesn't matter where you're from.
And that's what the creativity does for us.
Yeah, and that's where it's possible. Where. That's at a very high level.
Of course.
Obviously, I mean, it's not every little.
No, not everybody's Bob. Now, the Audi Innovation Series centers around design, creativity, innovation, and risk-taking. How do you define those elements in your whole life? And, I mean, how does it actually, manifest in your work as a filmmaker? Because all those things would be involved, right? Creativity, innovation, risk-taking.
Yeah, and risk is the essential word.
Okay.
If I want to be sure to make you a dinner that you really like,
okay,
I have to give you exactly what you had yesterday because you told me you liked it, right? If I know that you really like sweet potatoes and this.
I do like sweet potatoes.
Yeah, I do too. I just had them for lunch, and let's say you like sashimi, and I know that you're staying off carbs and you don't like this. So I know that's what you ate last night. You really enjoyed it. Now I got to make you dinner tonight. If I want to be sure, I got to give you the same thing. But if I give you the same thing, you just had it. So you don't actually want the same thing. No. You actually need something new. Fresh, yes. So I got to take a risk.
There you go.
You know, I got to risk. And the surest way, there is no sure way. That's the conundrum, right? Mm-hmm. But the best way I have found is to make you something I really like. It's just the only place to start, is to use my brains and go, hey, you know what? You might not
really
like this, right? But there's this brook trout that I happen to think is fantastic. Try it. It's got some olives. I promise. If you don't like it, okay. But my point being is that you got to take a gamble. Yeah. You can't just regurgitate. We need. All of society needs to grow. It's like, those old expressions, we're sharks, we got to keep moving. You can go to the library and there's a million great books, but you know what we really want to read? What is somebody saying today?
Yeah.
I want somebody, I understand Tolstoy's great.
And
I understand
was
this,
great,
but Tolstoy
who's
didn't
today's
have
Tolstoy?
a phone. Tolstoy wasn't going through climate change.
Yeah.
Tolstoy doesn't go to the political event of right now,
Yes.
And we are changing all the time. And so we need, as whatever job you're talking about, whether you're talking about innovation in sports, whether you're talking about it in mechanics, whether you're talking about it in movies, whether you're, anything, the same principles apply of risk-taking and learning. There's certain facts, right? We know that there's a math to the universe. Like the food has to be fresh.
2 + 2
The
is
food,
4.
there's certain things that you just know, like, okay. So that's my theory, is that unfortunately you have to take a risk. And the funny thing is, fortunately, it's really fun to take risks.
Especially when it works out. And
if you're forgiving of yourself, you're actually in a win-win situation, because if it doesn't work out, you just learned a lot. So your two options are either it's going to work out or you're going to learn a lot. So
that's a win-win.
It's a win-win. It's a little self-helpy, but I remember seeing a Kobe Bryant interview where he said there's actually no losing a game. Because if you lose a game, you just learned a ton, and I'm going to be better tomorrow. Yeah. So either one or I'm getting better. And I love that philosophy, because you can walk through life that way.
And it keeps you growing, and it keeps you moving
And when you make
forward,
mistakes, you say something stupid, you make something stupid, you don't do it. All right.
all good.
It's all right. It's all right.
No problem.
Yeah,
You get another chance
I'm
at it
smarter than I
tomorrow.
was.
Yeah. Before I let you go, this is important. Your daughter, because we have to talk about this famous kid of yours and getting to work with her. What piece of advice did you share with her, or any kind of aspiring talent, that to try to help them navigate this crazy world and career as an actor and creator? What do you have to say to people out there? Because you just directed your own kids. She's an up.
Yeah, it's hard. One of the things that I didn't foresee is that your primary job as a parent is to keep your kid out of harm's way. Mm-hmm. And I really got excited about being creative with her and making something beautiful with her, and I forgot how dangerous and cruel the world is. And releasing a movie is not keeping your child out of harm's way.
Sir.
But if you're strong in here, none of that stuff can really hurt you. So I feel like we're going to be all right. I think as far as advice, you have kids?
Yes.
Yeah. Advice is always bad unless it's asked for.
Okay.
Okay. If you're talking at people, nobody cares.
Man, I got a 16-year-old. You can't talk at them.
You can't tell. You got to wait. 16 might didn't listen to a word I said. 21 rolls around and they call you up and go, hey, let me ask you a question. Why did you do that?
They come back a little bit.
They come back. They spool it in, and that's really a beautiful opportunity. I really think I would have no advice for young people, but for parents, creating a space that they are loved no matter what. It's such a fine line, isn't it? Because I think children need walls. They need parameters. It's not okay to lie.
That's very important. Yeah.
It's not okay.
Yeah.
I do love you, but you can't lie. And let me tell you something. Your day's going to go better if you make your bed. You may think it's crazy, but let me tell you why.
I heard you got a lot of freedom as a young kid, though.
Oh, I did.
Your mom let you travel all over New York and do all kind of stuff that you wouldn't let your own kids do.
Totally. My mother says the best. People come up to my mother and say, I really want my child to be an artist. What's the best way to help them be an artist? And she says, abandon them.
Independence.
Yeah.
Teach them independence.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is you have to offer your kids some rules and consistency. I guess that's what I mean. It doesn't matter really whether you make your bed. Yeah. It matters whether the kid has a sense of consistency and that they're loved. and that they're forgiven, and that life is long, and they're allowed to make mistakes, and and so I'm proud of Maya, whatever she tries to do, as long as she does it with her whole heart and does her best.
Well, congratulations on the film. Congratulations on getting to work with this talented young lady.
Yeah, it's a great honor.
Just happens to be your daughter.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate you
Thanks for
being
such
here,
smart
man.
questions. Yeah, thanks.